Welcome back to the channel. Today is July 1st, 2026, and today I'd like to talk about Ethereum, ticker symbol ETH, and I specifically am on the Coinbase chart on the 5-day chart. Now, before we get started, I am an amateur trader and investor. During the day, I have a job that does not involve finances. So, as a amateur trader, I probably don't have the nuance of a professional. So please keep in mind of that as I'm going through the charts. What I like to do is just sort of see what I'm seeing in the charts, and if this helps you make a decision on this particular asset or get you interested in researching it more and getting other opinions, I consider my job done. So let's get started. Uh, on Ethereum, I'm just going to throw some things up here and I'm going to explode this. And as you can see, Ethereum is a coin with a lot of history. It's been around since it's probably been even around. I don't know the exact start date of Ethereum, but this is let's see, looks like July of 2017 is when this chart starts. But no, actually 2016. So it's been around for a long time. It's one of the older um, crypto assets, and it's a very significant one. It's considered number two, I think, on the capital for cryptocurrency. So it's just below Bitcoin. And a lot of traders, investors, if this is the first time you've been looking into crypto, Ethereum is watched carefully, even if you're not in it, because when Bitcoin would lose its dominance and Ethereum would start to have higher profits than Bitcoin, that would normally indicate a possible start of what's something called alt season, which is where much smaller altcoins compared to Bitcoin start running higher, and the volatility and the gains in altcoins can get to crazy levels sometimes when alt season starts. There was an argument that we did not have an alt season last bull run, so it may not be something we're going to experience this year too. There were certain altcoins that did do well, but it wasn't like the crazy bull runs of that we saw earlier in earlier cycles like 2021 and 2017. Okay, so with that being said, what is Ethereum doing? Because it's a kind of, I think, a very an interesting chart because it hasn't its bear markets have been has not been as destructive as some other altcoins. I mean, it's very typical for for we're talking like losing 90% and things like that from a bear run. But from the previous bull bear run, which was this, if you consider this bear run from here, okay, this started in January of 2022 and it went to what I would call almost a triple top, but it was really, I guess you could say it's more of a double top. That was about 925 days, and that movement had a gain of 364%. And then its last bear, after that, the bear market came down 66%. And then we had a 251% bull market to August of 2025. And then from that point on, Ethereum started its bear market. And we are at about currently, let's see here, it's been about uh, 315 days, and we're at about minus 70%. Now, keep in mind, I do not consider the bear market of Ethereum over. So there could be more downsides. We could definitely, you know, come down farther. This would be about 71%. And later on, we'll talk about it may come down to here. That would be about 78. And worst case scenario would be here, which would be about 82%. So it just depends on what Ethereum does. So let's talk about what's going on with Ethereum. Okay. And the reason why I find this chart fascinating is that from a long term perspective, we are trading in a channel. And the channel, at first I was wondering, could this possibly be a bear flag? Because you had this dip and then it kind of goes up, and but then it kind of stops here. And so it doesn't really have the angle of a bear flag. Bear flags typically you have a big use rise and then you see the price kind of go up at an angle. So it's too flat to be what I consider a bear flag. The next thing is, could this be a bull flag? Uh, maybe. Okay. I mean, if you take your trend lines here and you had a big spike up from a long-term perspective, keep in mind we're on the 12-month chart. You're going at this angle and you go in this angle. Okay, it's possible. So I it could be. This is more, again. This looks more like a bear flag than a bull flag. Bull flags tend to angle down. Bear flags tend to angle up. You could say it's possibly a bear flag. However, if the price comes back and touches down here, I think it negates it being a bear flag. Okay, so that's why I'm saying this is kind of interesting. Okay, so from a long term perspective, I think this really just what's happening is you're not really seeing the formation of a typical chart pattern where you're looking at a bear flag or a bull flag. This is, in my mind, not either. Okay. Maybe some other traders have different ideas. That's fine. I'm not the greatest at chart pattern recognition. I don't consider myself an expert on it. But in my mind, I think we're just trading in a channel. So we have this upper channel here, which is about $4,901. And then we have this bottom channel here, which only has two touches. So actually, we could probably draw it like this, even though it did. This particular touch, I would say, is weak sauce touch. Okay, but you know, I mean, it did travel above it. Um, but I do think, from a perspective here, that this is the bottom of the channel, and that's the top of the channel. Okay, now one of the things I look for bear markets is I look for waves. So essentially, what a wave is where um, uh, in day trading or scalping, there's this concept that you have 3 to 5 waves on a bull or a bear market. And instead of giving an example of wave, let's just go over it here. So this to me is the start of the bear market, about right here. And so if we take this line down like this, and this was wave one, then you had this jagged up. Okay. This is what we would call pause one. Okay. Then we would come down here and we would have another downside run. I made this a little bit too far. Okay, this would be wave two. Then we had another pause when the price went back up. Okay, so that's pause two. And then we had wave three, which is down here. And now where we're at is, keep in mind we're on the 5-day chart. Price did kind of go up, but it is still considered, I would say, inside bar trading. Okay, so we're either on wave three, or we already are starting pause three. Okay, and what I want you to look at closely here is you have this candle that has a bottom here. Okay, and it had a top here. And recently the price wicked over the top, but it did not break the body. Even though it wicked over the top, sometimes you can ignore wicks. You normally would want the body to close over the top. So we call this area here inside bar trading. Okay. So the next question is, what is going to happen here? Does it kind of do this? This would be an example of a pause. Okay. Sideways action. Okay. We don't know the future. We don't know if it's going to do something like that. Okay. I'm going to remove this drawing here. Remove it. Okay. Or is it going to maybe do something like this where it drops down further? And that could be just a continuation of wave three. But my argument would be is the longer this kind of moves here sideways, I think that would be more of an indication of a pause. Okay, so what do we need to know? How do we trade this with Ethereum? Okay, all right. You may be interested in Ethereum as trading, and you're kind of wondering when is the where is the bear market going to be over? Okay, so let's just talk how to trade this in the near future. Okay, I want to quickly go over here to our stochastic to the RSI, the stochastic RSI, and the money flow index. Okay, uh, the RSI, which measures overbought, oversold, it's very near the oversold level. Okay, and it could go down lower, it could go down to zero. However, every time the lowest point it's been on the 5-day chart is 23, and we are at 30. So we are officially in oversold territory of Ethereum. It could reverse at any time. I have no idea if it's going to go down to 23, but that's where we are. Momentum wise, we are below the 20, and the last 5-day cross happened in March of 2026. Okay. And then from a money flow index, which is another way to measure overbought, oversold, we are at the 22 line, and 20 is considered oversold, and we're there heading down. Another way to measure momentum is we can look at the ADX indicator. It does have a slight trend. It's saying that momentum to the downside is currently sitting at 26. You're considered in a trend if you are 20 or over. And you can clearly see this represents selling, the red dotted line. The blue line represents buying. So we are definitely seeing more selling in Ethereum than we are buying. So taking all those into consideration, how do we trade this? Okay. In my mind, your best bet, and keep in mind, I'm not currently, uh, I shouldn't say that. I am invested in Ethereum at the moment, specifically a derivative of Ethereum. Okay. But I'm not actually invested in the cryptocurrency itself. But I just want to put that out for disclosure's sake. So if you are interested in getting to Ethereum and you are not in Ethereum right now, your best bet is to place buy orders in this area. Okay. And what you are hoping is that this bottom trend line is going to hold. Now, keep in mind, okay, if you want to limit your losses, you could set your stop loss somewhere below this trend line. But keep in mind, because this is the number two cryptocurrency, that means that traders and investment firms that are that have way more money than us, like Wells, okay, they sometimes, when you come to a specific trend line like this, they will manipulate the price, and they could try to push the price down farther so you pretty much liquidate any longs that are leveraged sitting in this area, and then you can kind of see the price go up like this. So keep that in mind, that if you are going to set a stop loss, you may have to make a decision on how much you want to lose and how low you think you could take below this trend line, because it is a very big possibility that if this trend line is hit again, you may see institutions try to flush that liquidity out before the bull market for Ethereum starts. Okay. But if I don't typically set stop losses myself, but that's just me, and you don't have to be me. It really depends on what your risk tolerance is. But short term, like I said, I would set buy limits probably as it touches this line and maybe a little bit lower here. And we just have to see if Ethereum is going to come down and touch this line. It could be very possible, even though we're in oversold area, that it could come down and touch again. So what does that mean for the upside potential? Well, I do not like giving price predictions for Ethereum. Uh, however, based on its last bull run, since we are trading a channel, it wouldn't be unlikely that you could see Bitcoin trade up here, maybe even touch this trend line. And depending on market conditions, it may go above it. I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm not going to give a price prediction. But what I am going to tell you is that we are in oversold of Ethereum. The momentum is showing that we probably have some more downside for Ethereum, but it's not going to be like a huge drop, but it could be. Worst case scenario is if we have a fourth and fifth wave, I could see it coming down to this point, which would be about $1,000. And then the fifth wave, if there is one, could very easily go down to $885. Okay. So, really, what you're looking for is how does it interact with this line? What you're going to want to see is if it comes down and touches this line, does it start ranging or does it do a V-shaped recovery? Last time it touched this line, we had a V-shaped recovery. See, you had this one wick and it started going up like this. Okay. That's one way to start a bull market. Okay. The other way is it could, like I said, just range from here and then go up, or it could come down here, hit this trend line and kind of do this and then go up. That's another way that the bull market could start. So that's what you're looking for is how does it react to this bottom trend line? This is an inside bar currently. Consider this short-term resistance. Um, if it is going to break or go above this trend line, it would probably do so in the next month or so, maybe 2 months. You just want to see how this keeps on trade. If this keeps on going in between here, then that would definitely be considered a pause. And then the question is if it breaks this upper part, then that would probably most likely be the start of a bull market. If it goes down further, then that would be the start of another wave. And then we'd have to see again how it reacts to this bar here. So that's all I really wanted to talk about Ethereum today and kind of give you an idea of what to look out for. Now, with any trade or investment that you make, this is my recommendation. Okay. I really recommend that you take this to the Lord. Okay. If you don't have a relationship with Jesus Christ, I really encourage you to. I've said in the past, one way to start is to read the book of Matthew, the Bible. It's free out there. You can just look it up on the internet. You don't have to make a purchase. It's fully available out there. Read that and take decisions like this to the Lord in prayer. Don't just use technical analysis alone. Well, that's all I have for today. I hope you have a good morning and hope you enjoy the 4th of July that's coming up.